What is the worst thing about every Disney World resort? I have a list for you. Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Shannon from WDW Prep and I've stayed in all the Disney World resorts so many times. I genuinely believe every single resort has pros and cons about it, and I don't dislike any of them. But on a recent trip, we were sitting around having lunch at the food court at Art of Animation Resort, and we were like, we love that resort except for this one thing. Every resort just seems like it has a one thing. It has a lot of good things, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the one bad thing that I dislike about every resort. And if you're trying to decide resorts for your trip, maybe it's helpful. So let's start with the value resorts. All right, kicking it off with the all-star resorts. Let's start with all-star movies. The biggest issue that we have with all-star movies is that it is the last bus stop on the all-star bus route. So the three all-star resorts are all in a line, and sometimes they share buses and sometimes they don't, depends how busy things are. But when they share buses, all-star movies is last. So that means that if you are the last to be picked up, there may not be a seat for you. And that means coming back from the parks that you'll be the last to get dropped off. So that's the biggest issue at all-star movies. At all-star music, the biggest issue I have there is that very few rooms are considered preferred. The shape of all-star music resort is front to back as opposed to more spread out. And because of that, only the two buildings closest to the main building contain preferred rooms. That means if you're not in a preferred room and you're at All-Star Music, then you're going to have a bit of a walk because you'll be towards the back of the resort. So anytime you want to get to the front desk or the food court or the bus stop, you're going to have to walk from the back of the resort to the front in order to get there. And then the last of the All-Star resorts is All-Star Sports. All-Star Sports is probably the number one Disney World resort where groups stay. And by groups, I mean things like bands, like school bands that are there to perform, or cheerleading groups. And when that happens, if you happen to be there when they are, then you're going to have to just be a part of their practices and their rehearsals, because there's big field spaces and they're out and about. And so it can be pretty loud and pretty busy when the school groups are there. The other two value resorts are Art of Animation Resort, which we absolutely love, but it isn't cheap. So it's pricey for being the value category. I would even call it like a deluxe price, maybe on the lower end of the deluxe prices. Yes, you get a lot for it because you get more space in the suites that are there, and they have great pool and food, and you're on the Skyliner, lots of good things. But I think the price point in the value category makes it a difficult one for people to understand. Why would I pay that when I'm in the value category and don't get some of the deluxe benefits? So yeah, it's not cheap to stay there. And then Pop Century Resort is probably the resort that we stay at the most. It's the resort we think is the best bang for the buck. But one of the issues that I have had many times there is spotty Wi-Fi and bad cell connection. And when you are trying to work, as we are during our trips, that can be a huge hindrance. Most people nowadays want to have Wi-Fi and self-service. So even if you're not working, then that could be an issue. But it's one of our only downsides of Pop Century, considering how much it costs. Not too bad overall. Let's move on to the moderate category. We can't even rank the moderate resorts because everyone, to me, is ideal for a different group, but each one has downsides too. So let's start with Port Orleans French Quarter, which is the smallest of all of the moderate resorts. And because of that, it has fewer amenities than the other moderates in the same category, including the fact that it has no table service restaurant. They do have a food court, and they do have beignets, and you do have the ability to go next door to Riverside if you want a table service restaurant, or you can hop on a boat to Disney Springs. But if you want a sit-down restaurant at your resort, it doesn't have one. So let's talk about next door Riverside. And it does have a table service restaurant, among other things, but it is much, much bigger. And because of that, how spread out it is the biggest negative to me. And because most people are going to have a long walk to get to the main building in particular, if you book a preferred room, that can make it easier so that you'll have easy access to the main building. But if you're not there, then you have to know what you're getting into, because it is a big resort with a lot of walking to get anywhere. Moving over to Coronado Springs Resort, which is another favorite of ours, particularly Grand Destino Tower. We love so many things about this place, but the one thing that we can't get over, food court. It has the worst food court of any Disney World resort. They have a lot of great other dining options, but if you just want to go grab something quick for lunch, it is just lacking in options. And this is such an easy fix. I don't know why it is like this. We've even run into issues where it had limited hours. Like officially it lists, that it is open all day, but sometimes it is closed down. And we just find that very frustrating. We end up doing other kind of dining options when we're there, but it's not good for food court food. And then lastly, in the moderate category is Caribbean Beach Resort. And this one is huge, and it has the most internal bus stops of any Disney World resort, if I am not mistaken. Because of that, it can take a long time to get anywhere. We one time spent an hour getting to Magic Kingdom because you get on the bus, you have to wait for it to complete all of its internal stops and then go to Magic Kingdom. And that is a long time. I don't want to take an hour to get to any park if possible. I do understand that Caribbean Beach is improving in this area. They are sending more buses that will serve just like one or just a few bus stops as opposed to the whole resort. And that makes it much, much easier. Plus you have the Skyliner to go to 2 parks. So you don't even have to worry about the buses for those. But if you are on a bus that has to go to all the stops, it can make for a long commute coming and going. Let's move on to the deluxe category, starting with Animal Kingdom Lodge. The biggest downside of Animal Kingdom Lodge is that it only uses buses. So the thing about deluxe resorts is they almost all have an option to get places that is not a bus, but Animal Kingdom Lodge is one exception. When you are staying there, there are 2 stops, one for Jambo House, one for Kidani Village, but you have to take buses to get anywhere. And I think that's a big downside because I want easier access to the park. And next up is the Beach Club Resort, definitely a favorite of ours, but I think that if you're staying at a deluxe resort, you shouldn't have to share buses with other deluxe resorts. And here you definitely do. To be fair, it's at multiple deluxe resorts that you have to share the buses, but this is one of the only downsides I could find from Beach Club. So you will likely have to share with the nearby Boardwalk area resorts when you are staying at the Beach Club and taking a bus anywhere other than Hollywood Studios and Epcot, because you can get there without a bus. But having to share, I don't like that. Moving to the other side of the boardwalk, to the Boardwalk Inn, I have had mixed feelings about this resort for so long, but my biggest issue with it is that you have to go outside for almost all food and drinks. Now, I really like being able to throw on flip-flops and head down to a gift shop or a quick service or something like that and grab a snack, grab a drink. I don't want to have to go out in the public in the rain and the heat, but at the boardwalk you do. So a lot of stuff is just outside on the boardwalk itself. And I don't think that's very convenient, especially if you don't want to go out in public and you don't want to get rained on, you don't want to be on the heat, etc. If you are a person that likes to stay club level, this is one place where I would strongly consider it, because then at least you have a club lounge within the hotel and you don't even have to go out for a quick drink or a quick snack. It's right there. Next up is the Contemporary Resort. I would say that one of the biggest issues that we have, the Contemporary, is that the pool is just boring. Deluxe resorts usually have incredible pools. It's one of the things that makes them fun to stay at, but at the Contemporary, it's just kind of boring. So if a pool is important to you, you might want to consider a resort other than the Contemporary. Grand Floridian Resort. So it's the most expensive usually of all the Disney World resorts, but we're going to just put that to the side for now and talk about how when you stay there, it can sometimes feel like you are staying in a mall, because it is pretty and has such great food, and during certain times of the year has incredible decorations. It is kind of a destination for a lot of people, especially it's right by Magic Kingdom. So people often will just take the monorail over there just to go to the Grand Floridian. And visiting that is incredible, but being there with so many visitors can make everything much more crowded. And for that reason, I would much prefer to stay somewhere else that was a little bit more calm and didn't feel like a tourist destination in itself. Right next door at the Polynesian Village Resort, another great resort, but my biggest issue with it is that it has all separate buildings that are spread out. And so you have to navigate between them to do anything. So if you are staying in a guest house at the Polynesian Village Resort and you want to go have dinner or go catch the monorail or anything, you have to walk outside to get to it. And once again, you get caught in the rain, you get caught in the heat. And I just don't find that very convenient because I want to be under one roof, particularly with the harsh weather of Florida. So that part of it I don't enjoy so much. Wilderness Lodge, a lot of things to love here as well. However, it maxes out at 4 people for the standard hotel rooms. So most of the deluxes, the rooms are big enough that they accommodate 5 and they have 3 beds, which can be very convenient. And Wilderness Lodge just isn't in that category. It maxes out at 4. And finally, the Yacht Club Resort, a sister resort to the beach club. They are literally connected and share the same pool. But one of the biggest issues I have staying there is the lack of quick service options. So if you're a person that likes to grab and go for food items and you just want to grab a sandwich or a quick breakfast or something, it is much more difficult at the Yacht Club, where it is much easier to find table service options and not quick service options. It really lacks in that area. So make sure if you stay there that you know that going in. All right, so that is my list for Disney World resorts. What are your least favorite things about the resorts that you have stayed at? I am curious to hear. Please leave those in the comments, and thanks for joining.